Hello everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian, and welcome to the third edition of my 2013 MIFF video reviews. For this one I'm going to be talking about the live action slash animated film The Congress, which is from Ari Folman, the director of Waltz with Bashir, and the Saudi Arabian film Wadjda. So let's get right into it. I've got my MIFF program here so I can at least read out the plots of these films without butchering them. Let's start with The Congress. Robin Wright, yes, actress Robin Wright, plays Robin Wright, yes, she plays herself in the film, an actress with diminishing options. When her agent, played by Harvey Keitel, delivers an ultimatum, Wright's only choice is to sell her identity. Plunged into a lurid Orwellian future, she must rediscover herself with the help of her own personal animator, voiced by John Hamm, and her human doctor, played by Paul Giamatti. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect from this film. Like, I had seen the film's writer-director Ari Folman's previous film, Waltz with Bashir, and I really liked that film a lot. So I was definitely very interested to see this film. And to be honest, in a way this film kind of blew me away. I thought, to be honest, it's a very it's a fascinating film. It has some really interesting ideas and concepts that are sprinkled throughout. But the main thing that I really took away from the film is that it's a very interesting satire on Hollywood, and sort of, and that where you have the beautiful Robin Wright, who plays herself in the film. She does this really spectacular job of just playing a version of herself, who gets into this situation where the studios no longer want the actual person to act in their films, but rather what they want to do is scan them, both their appearance and as well as their emotions, in the computer, so that they can make films that way instead of using the actors. And so that whole idea is really interesting, and the movie sort of explores that extremely well. And it kind of is, in a way, kind of mirrors the whole sort of motion capture thing that's been going on in Hollywood now for the last couple of years. Then it sort of takes a turn within the story where it goes in a completely different direction than what just came probably before in the first act, where it goes into this complete insane animated world. The animated section, it's so beautifully animated, like it looked spectacular. I will admit though, the film actually went into that section, I will admit for a little while I found what it was, that entire, at least the middle section of the film, kind of muddled in terms of what it was trying to say, or which ideas they wanted to present. But eventually, and it sort of started to lose its footing a bit. But then by the sort of the third act of the film, it found its footing again, and then it just surprisingly went on to become a surprisingly moving film. And the main reason, even though it's a very trippy and pretty much a mind bender in the film, but the film has an emotional core at the center of it, which really grabbed my attention from the start, because in the film it's really about a mother's love for her son, and in the case of Robin Wright, her on-screen son, who was played by the great young Australian actor Cody McPhee, their relationship with each other is the sort of the main emotional drive of the film, and that sort of becomes more the centerpiece in the third act of the film, which I don't want to give any more away about, but the film just sort of goes into directions I didn't really expect, and it was a film that as soon as I finished watching it, I wish that somebody had seen it with me, whether it be my podcast co-host Marcy or somebody else had actually seen this film with me, because there's so much to discuss about it, and I love the sort of the ambitiousness of the story, the ideas, the concepts that it explores, and the satire, the scathing satire on Hollywood. Like some parts may not be subtle, but it's actually done extremely well. And I just thought it was a great film, and it's one I really want to see again. And I'm not sure what the Australian release date of this film is going to be yet. I don't know if it's going to be released later this year or sometime next year, but it's one that I definitely can't wait to check out. And I think if you sort of love trippy, mind bending films, then and also satires as well. I think you'll get a lot out of this film. It's a and yeah, it's such. I'm still thinking about this film now, that even a few days after seeing it. So, after I finished watching it the first time, I didn't know what to make of it. But the more I think about it, the more I actually really like this film, and it's definitely one I would definitely highly recommend a lot of people to check out, especially if you're sort of more into those type of films. Um, and so, overall, if I had to give this film a rating, I give it a 4 out of 5. And if you if you really dig Ari Folman's previous film, Waltz of Bashir, it's definitely a complete. Other than the fact that they're both animated, they're both completely 180 of each other in terms of how their subject matter and their stories. But if you like his other films, you'll definitely like this one as well. And also, I should say before I go on, Robin Wright, she's fantastic in the film. She's definitely one of the most underrated actresses out there. I've always loved her, and she's an actress who's never really gotten its due. And it was interesting to see her play a character, pretty much a version of herself in this film, and she just does a brilliant job. And it's just a great performance from her, and it's worth checking out. So The Congress, if you haven't seen it, and definitely check it out. But if you haven't, and I know it's showing one more, so I would suggest if you at MIFF, definitely try to seek it out before it finishes its run there. So that's The Congress. Now on to the next movie is the Saudi Arabian film Wadjda, which I'm sorry, which is about centering on a simple premise of a young girl named Wadjda who desperately wants a bike so she can race against her best friend. This charming coming-of-age story with an enchanting central character, the spunky and smart, resourceful Wadjda, offers a rare insight into the daily life of the Saudi capital, Riyadh. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, so forgive me. A city never before seen on film in a country with no cinemas. So, in a way, this film it's a very important film because, as I described just there from the plot, it's the first film to ever be made entirely in Saudi Arabia, and that alone is the reason why I think a lot of people should check this film out. Is the fact that we're basically seeing the first ever film made by this country, and I have to say and it also happens to the film was directed. Forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. Hafa Al Mansour. She's a this is her directing debut, and she's actually the first Saudi Arabia's first ever female director. So this is even more of a big deal, and I have to say that this is such this was such a great film. I really loved it. Even though has a very simple premise at the core of it, where it's just about this young girl who wants to raise money so she can buy a bike. But what I loved about it is that while it has this really simple premise of her sort of this slice of life story of this young girl, it also shows us gives us an insight into the country of Saudi Arabia, and as well as the sort of and how there's sort of the Muslim beliefs, and how also insights into the country, their beliefs, and the people, and you get to see all that. And also the film has an interesting way of telling this really light-hearted story, but also taking this interesting look. In a way, it's kind of a feminist film, because the film actually deals with a lot of sort of feminist elements about the film, and about how how women are treated in Saudi Arabia. And actually, the film explores that without feeling heavy-handed or at all, and it's done in a very organic way that fits to the story, and also it's also a very entertaining film. And the young actress who plays Wadjda in the film, who is played by a young actress by the name of Wad Muhammad, she is splendid. This is her first film, and she just nails it. She's smart. Uh, she has a lot of spunk to her, as you know, as the plot says, and she just she does such a great job with her performance. And but everyone else in the film that surrounds her is also really good. And I really like the actress who played her mother, who's played by Reem Abdullah. Sorry if I get pronouncing names wrong. She was wonderful in the film as well, and their sort of relationship with each other was really well done. And it's funny, which is was really surprising. It's touching, and it's very uplifting as well. And it is it's such a great film. And actually, what's surprisingly, uh, uh, our friend of Super Podcast, Sam Inglis, actually, when I was talking to him about what was playing at MIFF this year, this was actually one of the films he highly recommended me to check out. So I want to thank Sam for recommending this film to me, because and I will, even though we never see eye to eye on most films, but this is a case where it actually, his recommendation actually worked out, and I actually really loved it, and the audience I saw it with loved it as well. And it's it's a really well made, beautifully done coming of age story, wonderfully acted. It's just a wonderful film, and I definitely, when this gets sort of a more uh, bigger release, I definitely highly suggest everyone to go check it out. It's definitely uh, one of this year's better, stronger films, and I think it's great. And if I had to rate this one, I would give it a high 4.5 stars. It could go up on a repeating viewings, but at the moment, I think it's 4.5 is best suited for it. I, so, yep, that's the end of this third edition of my MIFF video reviews. Keep a lookout very soon for my fourth edition, in which I'll be uh, reviewing the Japanese drama Like Father, Like Son and the documentary Black Fish. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you all later. See you, everyone.